So today we'll continue with this metaphysical meditations, and it's the second meditation under the section called Devotion and Worship. And the second meditation is what we just did in our meditations just now, and it's titled To Awaken Devotion. And it's quite interesting that in order to awaken devotion, this meditation says to let me phrase it slightly differently. We live too much in the consciousness of the physical body, and our physical body can be very weighty. In fact, the whole of physical existence can be very weighty. If we live too much in the physical world, we feel burdened, or we can feel burdened by it. You know, all of us have thoughts and dreams about making this, how our life could be better than what it is right now. And what we find is, no matter how much we work hard at making things better, it kind of only almost comes right. There's always something that's missing. And so what Master's saying in this meditation is, don't live too much in the consciousness of the physical body. When you meditate, fly in your mind's airplane, above, below, right, left, all around. And then not only that, he says, go wherever you want. And so the last couple of weeks I have been experimenting with this meditation, and not just during meditation, but just generally during the day, sort of living less in this physical existence. Now, it doesn't mean that you're escaping. It doesn't mean that you are not in touch with reality. What we are doing is really living more with an uplifted consciousness. So even during the day, as you go about your daily activities, I mean, you can still, do everything else, but at the same time have an awareness of broader realities. I circled the sun, I went inside the sun, and kind of don't think of yourself as this physical body that is exploring all this outer space. But think of yourself as a soul, because our true nature is that we are a soul. And a soul is formless. A soul has no physical existence. In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, in the very beginning, was very despondent. He became very despondent when he was having to take part in this battle, where he knew that there were a lot of lives that were going to be lost, like it does in any war. And so Krishna basically is instructing him on what is the true nature of a soul. And what Krishna says to him, and this is coming from chapter 2, verses 22 to 24. And he's telling Arjuna what the qualities of a soul are like. So first he's talking about what happens when a person dies. Just as a person removes a worn-out garment and dons a new one, so the soul living in the physical body removes and discards it when it becomes outworn and replaces it with a new one. As in, this physical body is not who we are. This physical body is only just a garment that we wear. And then when we die, this garment is like old and worn out, we discard it, and then we put on new ones. And yet we know how much we are identified with this physical body and how much time it takes, not just time, but time, energy, resources it takes to just look after this physical body. This physical body needs a place to live in. And how much of our lives are spent just paying for the physical space that this body requires to live in. Then it needs food. And then things go wrong with this physical body. It needs medical attention. Often it's a bundle of troubles. And when we live too much at the physical level, life becomes burdensome. And so in this meditation, I'll read out this meditation for those who will just see this video and haven't done that meditation that we've all just done. So it says, to awaken devotion, sit still with a straight spine. Cover up your fidgety eyeballs with the sheet of your eyelids. Hold them still. Then loosen your mind from the consciousness of the bundle of your body weight. Relax the nerve strings that are pulling at the heavy muscles and bones of your body. For a while, forget the consciousness of carrying a heavy bundle of bones tied in the thick cloth of flesh. Rest. Free your mind from the consciousness of a beast of burden. Do not think of your body. Yeah, I think I need Karen to read it because I'm having trouble reading it.
Do not think of your body load, but feel your soul untied from the constant material quality of heaviness. Mentally race in your fancy's airplane above, beneath, left, right, in infinity, or wherever you want to go. Feel and meditate on this, your mental freedom from your body. Dream, dwell, and feel this body aboveness when sitting still. The territory of your freedom will constantly increase.
Thank you. And so in this meditation, which is to awaken devotion, what Master is really saying is when we don't identify too much with the physical body, that means we are not so burdened, not so weighty, and through that we can then awaken our devotion. Because devotion has a quality of lightness about it. And as long as we are identified with something that is heavy, that devotion cannot rise in our hearts. But when we let go the consciousness of the physical body, then our heart can fly, our heart can soar, we feel free. Master talks about, let me just finish with the Bhagavad Gita verses. So then Krishna says to Arjuna, weapon cannot cut the soul, fire cannot burn it, water cannot drown it, and wind cannot wither it away. And so when you're doing that meditation about the soul, taking it wherever you like, we don't have to be worried about where we go, because absolutely nothing can harm the soul. The soul is immortal. It's changeless. The soul is never touched. It is immutable, all-pervading, calm, unshakable. Its existence is eternal. So I've actually had a lot of fun experimenting with going many different places, including, you know, from peak to peak in the Himalayan mountains with Babaji. Don't think of yourself as this physical body, but think of yourself as just a soul, which is formless, and you can move along with the small band of Babaji in the Himalayan mountains. You can go meditate with Swamiji in the Moksha Mandir. You can go to expanding light. You know, there's just absolutely no limits to where we can go. And what my experience of working with this meditation, and not just during meditation, but also throughout the day, keeping that consciousness free and being able to mentally travel to all these different places, there was a feeling of lack of, not so attached to this physical world. There is a feeling of freedom that came with it. Master says, live more in the consciousness of the astral world. What is the astral world? You know, it's the world just behind this physical world. And the way to access this astral world is through the tools of imagination, the tools of visualization, until you start to feel that you are living in the astral world. In one of the talks that Master gave, he said that when you are calm and happy, you are living in the astral world. Astral world is not a physical place that we can travel to with our feet, but it's a place that we move into with our consciousness. And so he says, when you are calm and happy, you are living in the astral world. When you are feeling very nervous, or the word that's often used today is anxious or burdened, that means that you are living in the physical world. And so he says, just fly away, take recourse in the astral world. And when we keep our awareness at the spiritual eye, we draw to us vibrations, spiritual vibrations from the astral world. We draw on the calmness from the astral world. As in, this is like a doorway. And as soon as we put our awareness here, it's like opening this doorway so that all these blessings that are constantly flowing from our masters from the astral world can actually come to us and free us. So this whole meditation is really about living less in this physical, with the consciousness of this physical world. Now that doesn't mean that we become otherworldly. It doesn't mean that we are trying to, have phenomenal experiences of the other world. All it means is we have a larger perspective. The physical reality isn't the only reality. Some days we feel happy. Some days we don't feel so happy. What has changed? The only thing that has changed is our consciousness. And so we can use that consciousness to uplift us. When we say that, oh, I feel really down today, what we are really meaning is, I'm too much living in this physical world and it's weighing me down. When we say, I feel uplifted, that means that our consciousness has risen above the weight of this physical world. Lightly I fly, like we sang just before, lightly I fly when I live in laughter. As in, when we are happy, we feel lighter. The physical world is dense. The astral world is very light. And in the astral world, all our desires can be pretty much instantly fulfilled. Master also says, don't wait for death to take you in the astral world. Yes, the astral world is very beautiful, but for most people, they'll be just having a peaceful sleep when they are in the astral world, and they may only momentarily wake up to enjoy the astral world, but most of the time it'll be like a rejuvenating sleep until you wake up again in this physical world. So while we are still living in this physical world, we can escape. I don't quite like the word escape, but we can move into the astral world by just using our imagination. You know, when Master says that for those who think me near, I am near, what does that mean? What it means that I have uplifted my consciousness into the astral realm, and therefore I can be in contact with Master in that realm. This is a direct quote from Master. He says, you are always trying to create a picture of perfection here on earth, but it is fruitless. You will never succeed, for the world is a place of too many limitations. The utopian dream is but a lost, forgotten memory of your experience of the astral world. The astral world is beautiful. The weather in the astral world, we are told, is beautiful. Sri Yukteswar talks about it in Autobiography of a Yogi. Master has written the chapter on the resurrection of Sri Yukteswar. And he describes in great detail how beautiful the astral world is, all the different colors, the climate is just right. Any desire can be fulfilled straight away. Unlike, you know, when we live in this physical world, we have to follow the laws that operate here. If you plant a seed, well, it will take time before that seed germinates and bears fruit. But in the astral world, everything is instant. That's my understanding. And then Master says, imagination is not unreal. It is the borderland of what is yet to be real. And so when we are imagining ourselves in that astral world with our masters, it's not unreal. There are these beings in the astral world, and we can go there just using our imagination. We use our imagination as a tool. He further says, spiritual man experiences the physical world, but they are not identified with this world. He is always centered in the spiritual I. And Master says, I never take my mind away from there, no matter what I am doing. Imagine living in that consciousness. You know, when we look at each other, we see each other as flesh, as a physical body. But the Master says that when he sees us, what he sees us is as beings of light, which shows that even though he's living in this physical world, he's actually got the consciousness of being in the astral world. And so he is looking at us from that consciousness. There's a story that Swami tells in the New Path. And there was a disciple, and Master asked him to paint a room. And 2 days later, Master was sitting with Rajasi in this room, and this other disciple whom he had asked to paint the room was also there. And Master says to Rajasi, "Isn't this room beautiful? The paint in this room look beautiful." And Rajasi looks at the walls, which hadn't been painted. That other disciple hadn't even bought the paint. But Rajasi looked at that disciple looked at Rajasi, and they just smiled at each other. Because in Master's consciousness, the room was already painted. I mean, imagine, you know, if we can look at places with that same consciousness. Usually we see things the way they are at the moment. But imagine if we could see the potential of something and how freeing that would be. And the creativity that can be awakened in us when we see the potential of anything. And similarly with people, you know, when the Masters see us, they see us as the perfect soul. We see imperfections in others, in ourselves. So, if we can begin to live more in the consciousness of the astral world, how much more beautiful everything will look. And imagine the creativity that will flow when we live more from the astral world, because we're coming more from an uplifted consciousness. An uplifted consciousness is like a reservoir of solutions. Whereas when we live too much in this physical consciousness, all we see is problems to be solved and no answers. Once again, this is a quote from Master. He says, "I'm not giving you this lecture to make you mystical or to stir in you a desire for the entertainment of phenomenal experiences and powers. The point is to awaken you from the delusion that you are a limited mortal, helplessly subject to the whims of physical existence. Imagine, affirm, will, meditate to realize your true self as the soul, cloaked in a wonderful astral form of light and power. That thought alone, far from making you otherworldly, will energize your life and accomplishments in the here and now." You know, we sang that song, "Oh Master," and that bit there a love that calls for us to fly above the hills, above the sky. You know, when you even just sing those lines, you are using your imagination to take you away from this physical world and sort of soar high above the storms, above the pain, a land where peace and laughter reign. You know, children have amazing imagination. When my niece was visiting me over Christmas, you know, she had just received a cooking set for a Christmas present. And you know, she was just enjoying making, you know, pretend play, making meals, putting those things on these plates and giving it to us. And children are imagining things all the time. And then somehow when we become adults, something happens. We become too weighed down by this physical reality. And somehow we stop imagining. And it's almost like we need to become children again. I mean, a lot of the children's books that at least I was brought up on, you know, they really inspired your imagination. Like the books that I was brought up with, like Cinderella, Hansel and Gretel, the elves and the shoemaker, you know, all of those stories really awaken in us imagination. It encourages us to kind of imagine, and it takes us into another world. Now that's not unreal, that other world. I mean, I often think about the stories of the story of the elves and the shoemaker. And you know, the elves really do come at night and make things happen. You just have to look at the seeds that you plant, you know, and then you wake up the next morning and those seeds germinate. What has happened? And it's nice to think that the elves came at night and, you know, they made the seeds germinate. Same thing, you know, when we when our bodies need healing. Each night you go to bed, the next morning you wake up, the body has healed a little bit more. As in, what happens when we are sleeping? Something more happens that's beyond the physical realm, that just makes everything a little bit better. So Master says, you know, again and again, live more in the astral world, live more in the consciousness of the astral world. In the astral world, he says, everything is changeable at the command of the mind. How important it is to live in that finer realm. And I like what he says here. I am all the time there. Even now as I'm talking to you, such happiness comes. There are no words I can use to describe it to you. So, use your imagination. When you sit down to meditate, use your imagination to be with the masters. Use your imagination to move away from this physical world and this body consciousness. Move away from the daily, you know, responsibilities. So yeah, use your imagination to kind of live more in the astral world. The astral world is nearer than we think. And see what happens. Experiment with it. And don't just do this when you're sitting down to meditate, but even during the day, just take flights of fancy and see what happens. Is there anything anybody wanted to add?
It's nice to have that permission to be a child again.
Yeah.
To let the imagination run wild.
In fact, I felt the same, you know, that Master's giving us permission to imagine ourselves in places other than just being in this physical reality. And it's not unreal either. It gives us a much broader perspective of reality rather than being confined to just this physical form. I mean, after all, you know, we live in a world of ideas as well. The best works, you know, come about because somebody imagined it. How did an aeroplane come about? You know? A beautiful painting, a beautiful house, all of these were first, you know, somebody's imagination. And then you put a little bit of more energy into that, and then you start seeing a physical materialization of that imagination. So it's quite nice to have that permission, you know, even when you sit down to meditate. It's nice to kind of imagine that you are somewhere else. Not confined to the, you know, geography that you are in. There's so much freedom in it. In some ways, I feel that this is the best teaching I have had, you know. And then this whole, well, we're only up to the second meditation in here, but you can see the depth of what he's telling us, you know, in these meditations. When you begin to understand why he's teaching us to meditate in this way. Because we ultimately want to begin to identify ourselves with who we truly are, rather than with those aspects of us that are changeable. So how about we finish with a prayer? Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, Beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, and our beloved Guru Paramhansa Yogananda, saints of all religions, and beloved Swami Kriyananda, we humbly bow to you all. We thank you for the teachings that you have given us. And may your love shine forever on the sanctuary of our devotion, and help us to awaken your love in all hearts. Peace. Amen.